So it turns out Plex has been tracking you for years. They know everything you watch, everything you do. It's time to panic. Or embrace a new feature. It's actually kind of cool. What's up YouTube, Jason here with Byte My Bits, and yes, you heard me right. For the last about 3 years, Plex has been keeping logs on your Plex media server, basically tracking what you watch, how often or how many times you watch something, and keeping some useful information really for anybody who wants to dive into their server and see what people are actually wanting to view in some detail. Now, clickbait titles aside, this is actually kind of an interesting feature because if you guys probably already know, there are alternative programs out there that many people, including myself, install in order to keep track of this type of stuff. Things like PlexPy, which is the older version, and the new version, Totally, however you say it. These are both, side programs that you can install on your Plex media server, or at least next to your Plex media server, and it tracks things like what movies are being watched, how often they are being watched. It also keeps track of like IPs being used, things like that. And while this latest update from Plex is not nearly as complete or as thorough as something like Totally or PlexPy is, it is definitely an interesting upgrade and something worth talking about because I like the direction that they're going, and I really kind of hope that maybe in the future they expand, this tracking, this database, and this logging to more stuff like Totally is. Even if it's something that you can opt into, like I want you to track all of the IP addresses being, used or something like that. Like even if there are options, I would like to see this expanded. So let's jump into it right now. First thing I want to say is that you do need a server version, I think 1.14 something plus, in order to really see this kind of information from the Plex screen. And as of recording this video, the web interface that comes with that Plex media server, so like if you connect directly to your server, is not updated enough in order to use it. So if you can't see any of this on your server and you have updated to the latest version, then you will need to go to the plex.tv website, and over here on the top right, you can click launch, and that will actually launch your Plex media server utilizing the web interface through Plex, which is a much more updated interface. And this is actually something you can see all the time, like any kind of new feature or something like that that's not, already integrated in the server upgrade for the web interface. You do want to use the plex.tv launching platform in order to get that updated web interface to utilize new features like beta features and stuff like that. But to jump right in, and I am going to show you this demonstration screen, but I do want to kind of like say that I've sterilized this, where I've removed any kind of usernames and account specific things. I want to give you the information. I want to show you what it looks like, and I want to talk about it, but also don't want to throw usernames and stuff out there. So there are some things that are included, and I'll kind of point out where they were included that will show on the screen that I'm not showing on the screen just due to privacy reasons on my end. Now, of course, to access the screen, you do want to go up here and click your activity icon, drop down, and you just click dashboard, and that will take you to the screen. So to start off, I do have a couple movies playing on my computer. I wanted to launch them just to show you what it would look like for now playing. There's actually a couple different options over here on the right. If you hit the default view is just this basic view where you can kind of see the thumbnails, where it is in the movie itself, kind of get an idea of what part of the movie they're at, or you could stop the playback if you so choose. And then if you expand that to show the details, you can see what client they're using. Of course, this is all basic information, but still I wanted to showcase it. Here on the left, I have it transcoding down to 2 megabits per second. On the right, I have it direct streaming. And then underneath, it does have my icon. And normally it would show my username to the right of the icon, but again, I've sterilized this whole interface here, so it doesn't show it on this demonstration screen. There's not a whole lot more information here. On Totally, it'll show what IP addresses are being used. And this is actually kind of a big thing. I mean, I've shared my server with somebody, and not only were they using it, but then their friend was using it, and I noticed the IP addresses on the same username, and I had to call them out on it and put a stop to it. So I would have never noticed that if I didn't have the option to go in and look at IP addresses being used. So I think that's personally a big deal to be able to see that. So I really hope to see that in future releases, because to me, I've used it, I rely on it, and Totally or PlexPy, both of those give me the option to see IP addresses currently being used, along with a history of IP addresses being used. But dropping down to the bandwidth, this is a new screen and something I don't actually really get with Totally or PlexPy. but this will show current usage. Of course, there are different spikes where, it's got a buffer and kind of catch up to itself, where it looks like it's jumping up a little over 70, almost 90 megabits per second. Of course, this is all local network, so this isn't actual internet usage, but for the local network coming out of the Plex Media server to my main computer, it does give me this real-time graph, which is kind of nice. And it even does break it down, remote and local, so I can see what kind of bandwidth is being used outside of my home network versus what's being used inside of my own home network. I like this, and if I go to, let's say, last 24 hours, kind of breaks it down like the total amount of bandwidth used, which is really kind of interesting. Like, let's say we go back here, let's see, hour 12, 13, and 14. Looks like I used 95 megabytes, 151 megabytes, and 187 megabytes remotely. Now, these are just people utilizing my server. So being able to break this down and kind of track the bandwidth is kind of interesting. Like, let's say you go to 30 days. In the last 30 days, I've used a remote amount of data of 4 gigabytes and a local amount of data of 17 gigabytes for a total of 21 gigabytes total usage. And then we have the top users here, which just pretty much lays out everyone that's been using my account. I have this set, by the way, for all time. You can set it for the last 24 hours, 7 days, 30 days, 90 days, last year, etc. Right underneath here on the icon, right above TV, it actually says the usernames. But again, since I've sterilized the screen, I have blocked those out. So you do not see those here, but on your server, you should see the usernames pop up. And I currently have this set to all time. So it looks like all time, I have used 6,396 plays for a total of 164 days of view time. That's a lot of TV. Keep in mind, when this is all time, Plex has actually only been tracking this for about 3 years, since an update about 3 years ago where they're starting to log this kind of information. So this isn't the whole time that I've been using Plex, but this is the last roughly about 3 years. Interesting still, nonetheless. And then from there, it shows me some other users on my account. Of course, I'm not going to show them all, but there's 5, there's C, and there's B. It lays them down. It shows like how many movies and TV shows and stuff that they watch. This is interesting. I mean, I get kind of the similar information from Tatali, but this is a good start. Let's just say that. This is a good start. There's nothing to click, nothing to go in here, nothing to view more. This is just kind of like a summary page, but it's a good start. As for the play history, this breaks down basically what type of media is being used. So I have it again set to all time, and you can kind of see December of 2015 is where they really started. Actually, looks like November of 2015 is when they really started logging some of that information. And it just shows total playtime, like movies, 2.8 days of movies being played in December of 2015, 5 days of TV shows being played in December of 15. Now this is all users. I can change this if I want to. I'm not going to click this because it will drop down and show all the users, but I can see, let's say, how many TV shows or movies I watch specifically in each one of these months. So that's an option if you want to use it. And then we have top played. Again, I have this set to all time, and I like this because, it kind of gives me an idea of like what TV shows and stuff are being watched consistently. Let's say if I'm on the fence of getting rid of something, maybe to save space, which will never happen, but hypothetically, if I was, I could go in here and I can kind of see what maybe some of the top ones are, so make sure I don't delete those. The only thing I don't like is stuff like The Revenant, for example. This says 433 plays. Now, I've actually dove into this and looked into it a little bit more on Tatali, and it was one user, and they were having connectivity issues. Whether it was my fault or their fault, they kept trying to replay it, and it took a few different times. Obviously, they were very dedicated, but every time they try to relaunch it, it counted as another play. So obviously, we're not playing The Revenant 433 times, but it counts each one if you are having connectivity issues. So it's a little misleading, and I kind of feel it would be nice if it kept a better log and it showed, hey, they tried to play it and then they tried to play it right after that, and they didn't actually finish the movie. It'd be nicer if that was like that, but either way, it's still good information to have. So it is what it is. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you can kind of dive in and look through some of this interesting statistics. Obviously, you're not going to get the same information you would get from a more advanced alternative option like Tatali, but it is a very good starting point. And I am excited to see, hopefully, maybe in the future, if Plex is going to start adding, additional tracking features to this. Like, I want to see things like the IP addresses being tracked, and I want to be able to dive in a little bit more in detail on each one of these users and just kind of see all kinds of stuff. I mean, Like for example, let's change this to movies, and then off screen, I'm gonna change the user on this to just myself. And I'll change it to 90 days, and I'll just blur this one out. But just in the last 90 days for movies, you can see I don't really watch very many movies. I mean, a few hours here and there. But then if I change this to TV shows, that's a whole different story, because I have like ADD. So when I'm like editing a video, I'll be watching a movie sometimes too. So, I mean, October 14th, 16 hours for October 14th through October 21st. That is a lot of TV. That's just running on the side, on my side screen. So it's kind of embarrassing when you start breaking this down. November 4th through November 11th, 1.6 days of TV playing from Plex. That's extensive, I think. And again, I'm not just sitting around watching TV this much. It's just one of those, it's almost like white noise on the left-hand side of the screen while I'm doing something, because I'm like a dog. I just be like, focus, 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 squirrel. So I ask you this question, guys. What kind of features would you want to see in this screen? Maybe some features that you get with Tatali, maybe some features you don't get with Tatali. So guys, let me know what you think about this new feature. I mean, this is interesting. It tracks a lot of stuff, but I think, again, you know, there's stuff to add. So I would really like to know, like, what's important to you, something that you wish was in here that you think would actually make you use this screen more often, and maybe possibly even in the future, not rely on something like PlexPy or Tatali, because this has everything included. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you for watching, like, and subscribe, and have yourself a good day. Whether you're protecting yourself on public Wi-Fi, bypassing regional filters, or just simply wanting to download something without the worries of a government or a corporation not liking you for it, a VPN service is a must-have solution. And depending on where you're located, it could be hard to find a VPN fast enough for daily use. That's why the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee of NordVPN is so valuable. Because even though I can tell you I get great speeds and reliability, as they say, the proof is in the pudding. By visiting nordvpn.com/byte or clicking the link in the video description below, you can test these speeds out for yourself with a heavy discount. And with 30 days to prove its worth, it's a safe way to ensure you're getting what you paid for.